Same thing about work. Now, I want to play something here. All right, same thing about work. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 3. I want to say here, anything you are doing with your hands now, in the sovereignty of God, He allowed you to be there because there's something He wants to bring out. I want to show something here. Put up Proverbs, put it in Amplified version. All right, it says, commit your works unto God, and your thoughts shall be what? Established. In other words, take your works, what you are doing, commit it to God, and tell God, what is your own plan concerning this thing? I am what? Doing. I'm telling you that people are not hearing from God. You know, when I came out of school, I met a senior minister in this country. I couldn't believe when he told me. He told me, he said, listen. He said to me, he said, we're in the airport. He said, nobody's hearing God again. No. We're just doing what we see. He told me this. A strong minister. He said, we're just doing what we see. So he says, commit it. Take it to God there. Now, and let me share here, and I want to stop and share something and play a prophecy by Kenneth Copeland. I want to share something here. You see, even in the field you are in, whether it's technology, business, and all of that, God has a plan. See, there are things He wants to bring out of you in that place that no man's eyes have seen, no man's ears have heard. There should be kingdom manifestation. Now, let me show you what caused the problem. Why the church took faith out of the, I want to read something to you in church history, took faith out of the realm of anything intellectual. In other words, when it comes to intellectual stuff, and I'll play Copeland's prophecy 40 years ago, right? When we will talk about God blessing you, and we'll talk about, I don't want to criticize anybody, but we'll talk about this, money just coming to you. Without knowing, the greatest wealth comes from the ideas that are in there. If you get the next big idea on AI, you will be a billionaire. Nobody has to come and hand the money. Do you get what I'm saying here? He says the heavens will be opened, and He says I will pour rain and bless the work of your hands, and you will lend unto nations and not borrow. Let me show you what caused the problem. And this is why in Europe the churches are getting empty. One time I went to preach somewhere, I took a train there in France. Every place in France, through villages, the center of those villages, there were churches. Everything was built around the church. If you look at those churches now, they're depleted, all right? They have collapsed everything. People have forgotten about the church. They don't. And what caused the problem there? Something happened. All right, put up that write-up. Let me read to you. This is what happened here. Let's just read it here. Okay, put it up. The write-up, I said. The world works. In 1633, an aging Italian astronomer here named Galileo Galilei was taken before the Roman Inquisition, tried and convicted of heresy, and sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. He endorsed the idea proposed a century earlier by Galileo's crime, all right? The great Catholic astronomer, right, Nicolaus Copernicus, that the earth is not the center of the solar system. In fact, said Galileo, it is the other way around. The sun sits at the center, and the earth is simply one of a handful of planets that revolve around it. This idea was judged as being diametrically opposed to the position taken by Holy Scripture. Where did they get Scripture telling them? I don't know. Look at the next thing here. Next slide. Galileo was forced to publicly recant his views, and his book containing the offending idea, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World System, was banned. The old man's sentence was later commuted to house arrest, and he lived out the rest of his days confined to his villa outside Florence, where he eventually went blind. This was something that was true, that later was found to be true. The church stopped it. Still, Galileo's views persisted, and the meticulous experiments and mathematical models he used in his search to understand nature set the stage for all the developments of modern science that followed 3 centuries later. A German physicist named Albert Einstein called him the father of modern what? Science. The person they said was heresy from Scripture. Look at this. I want to see where the culture came from. For thousands of years leading up to the time of Galileo, the answer, all right, science had been more interested in creating intellectually satisfying description of reality than in trying to see if those descriptions could be supported by proof. But with the age of Copernicus and Galileo, European scientists began vigorously to pursue, all right, the pursuit there of empirical evidence, thought experiments gave way to actual physical ones. The French philosopher, mathematician René Descartes here, a contemporary of Galileo, who is today regarded as the father of modern philosophy, declared that the best way to understand, hear this, how the world works will be to divide its existence into two parts. Look at what they said. The objective of material world governed by principles of science, and the subjective world of the mind and soul, which will be the providence of the word church. They separated it. That's where science and church parted ways, which means that we're no longer play in that world. Are you following what I'm saying here? Because when they were trying to go into that world, they were thinking, the church came and said, with scripture, you are talking heresy, carry the people, lock them up. So Europe said, if we are going to advance, please let church be what? Church. And let scientists be what? Science. So you know what happened? All the world of discovery where wealth was, the church was not playing there again. Don't we say today when television comes out, people first of all say television is demonic. AI has come now. They say AI is the end of the world. Are you following what I'm saying here? The hostility between. So you know what's happening? Our people in the marketplace are not downloading anything. They don't even believe that grace has provided mathematical calculations, science, models of business. We teach Christians on the streets how to receive money the way the priesthood does it. If you're a businessman, nobody is going to come and give you. Who is going to come and give you? You are in business, so you'll come and give you money. Give and shall be given. That's the limitation. I'm telling you, it's a limitation of the priesthood. So you find people in the world of business judging what they are doing by how a pastor will do what he's doing. The problem is that. Now, listen to what Kenneth Copeland said. This is 1984. 40 years ago, a friend said it to me. He told me, said, Pastor, he works in Kenneth, well, he's one of the intercessors in Kenneth Copeland's ministry. He told me, said, you've been preaching this thing from school. One time I did a webinar. I said, let me send you this prophecy. 40 years ago, I hope you understand what 40 years is. 40 years ago, there was nothing on the internet. 40 years ago. Please play. Listen to what Copeland said. Play it.
Stop being afraid of me financially. Stop being afraid that I'm going to take away everything you have. Stop being afraid of the world financially. Stop being afraid of your reputation financially. Don't be afraid to do what I tell you to do. I've got your best interest at heart, not your worst. The reason I haven't been able to bless my people any more than I have, your words are stout against me. If I tell you to do something, you argue and argue and argue and argue and talk yourself out of it. You say, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. I know what you can do and what you can't. I'm no fool, saith the Lord. I know what you can do and what you can't. When I tell you to do something, it's because I'm going to see that you learn to do it. And I'll put you over in it. And many of you are thinking, well, I can't go do things like that. Yes, you can. I've given many of you ideas. I've given you things that look good. I've given you the first step to an invention, and you let it pass away. And by not, well, I'm not mechanically minded. Well, you ought to be spiritually minded. I am the world's greatest mechanic. I developed all mechanics. I developed all metallurgy. I developed all of these things. I know where all the silver and gold is that men don't know anything about. I know where there's enough money that people have lost to put you over. If you'd have the nerve to believe me and listen to me and spend enough time in prayer that I could get over to you what I want you to go do. I have new ideas that the world has never seen and never known. And I've not done anything in secret. Any man that hath ears to hear. I'll show you ways that will astound the world. I've done it in the past and I'll do it in the future. I want to give you all that I have. Don't you remember in my word, saith the Lord, that I said when the Spirit of truth is come, He'll take all that's mine and show it unto you. And all that the Father has is mine. And I say again, He'll take what is mine and He'll show it unto you. He's come with an assignment to show you and to teach you and to train you. But if you'll listen to the Spirit of God, I'll take those of you tonight that don't have hardly money enough to get home on. If you'll listen to me and spend time with me and spend quality time with me and listen and listen and listen and listen, you'll begin to know my voice. You'll begin to hear my voice. And many of you will have money enough in 1 year's time to build churches and to raise up great ministries and do it on your own pocketbook. I want my people to be rich. I want my people to be well off in this world. I do not want my people to be covetous. I wanted to give one of my people the handheld computer industry. I wanted to give one of my people the microchip. I wanted to give it to some of my people. I held it back. I held it back. I held it back. I held it back until finally in the earth I had to have that technology here in order to cover the earth with my gospel, which will fill the earth with my glory. And so I had to release it into the hands of those that I could get through to. And some were my people and some were not. But most of those that were my people didn't know that it came.
He said, God said, I held it back, waiting for my people. I held it back. I held it back. When my people were not responding, I had to release it to people that were open to it. That's where the wealth was. That's where it was. He says, I held it. Did you hear what he said? Handheld computer. I hope you know what he's talking about. That. The microchip. He was talking about this 1984. He was saying those things were to happen. And that the world was ready. They opened themselves. That's why people are telling us, how come you talk prosperity, but people in the world are prospering more than people in the church? That's the reason. What happened in 1633, when there was a separation, church people no longer. In fact, when he says, I will open the windows of heaven and I will pour you out blessings that you know that what blessing there means. I will pour you out utterances in the spirit. He wasn't talking about anything physical. He was talking about a rain of ideas.